You are now watching the official YouTube channel for the largest basketball manager game in the world. Join at BuzzerBeater.com if you think you can beat the buzzer.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to Bubbles BuzzerBeater, the official BuzzerBeater YouTube channel. Today I want to discuss something that happened to my BuzzerBeater team recently, and something that probably happens to a lot of you throughout your BuzzerBeater careers. But that's going to be discussing how to best manage minutes in a walkover win, and just understanding forfeits in general. So for me, I went up against a team who is no longer active and has been forfeiting a lot of games recently. And with the regular season about to end and postseason right on the horizon, I looked a lot into the most efficient way or the best way to set yourself up for success when managing minutes in a walkover. So first, talking about when do forfeits happen. Forfeits happen in BuzzerBeater whenever a team cannot field 3 or more players. So 5 players must be on the court at all times, and essentially whenever a team cannot field more than 3 players, that game is a forfeit. So on the 2 examples on the screen right here, you can see on the left side there's 3 players rostered. So this is a situation where obviously not an ideal setup if you're trying to win a BuzzerBeater game, but if you field at least 3 players, then it wouldn't become a forfeit. And what actually happens is the final 2 spots in the lineup, so in this example, power forward and center, those spots are fulfilled by what they call lucky fans in BuzzerBeater, where essentially you can play the game, and there's some horribly trash lucky fan players who go and join your players on the court to fill out the remaining 2 spots. In a situation where the forfeit would happen is on the right-hand side, where you can see there's only 2 players in the lineup for this setup, where if there's only 1 to 2 players in the lineup for any team, then that becomes a forfeit. And then just a show of kind of what it looks like in the actual game, for if you're trying to watch a game where there are, forfeits or lucky fans, you can see the BuzzerBeater game engine doesn't know what to do with a lot of it. So you'll see some undefines, and then there's the lucky fans that I was talking about. The other thing to keep in mind is that all of your players will not accumulate any stats in the game. So while you might be watching the game, you might see your player getting points, rebounds, fouling out a lot. There's notorious amount of fouls during games with lucky fans. But none of these stats carry over to post game, and they don't impact like league statistics or league ratings, anything like that. So as I said, it doesn't impact any sort of stats, any point differential, any ratings for that. The one thing that it does do is the point differential in the game doesn't matter. However, you can see on the screen in the forfeit that my team just won, it becomes a 50-0 win for whichever team didn't forfeit. So that's the only way that it impacts the point differential, but it does not carry over from the game score itself. And then how do you know if a walkover win is coming? So there's 2 different ways where you can anticipate a forfeit coming from your opponent, where you want to make sure you're not like blanking a lineup or you're setting it up in a spot where you want to get your players optimal minutes. One way is you'll see an asterisk next to the team's standing on the standings league page. So in our league, the Dogs is a team that is not very active anymore and likely going to go bot soon. But it's 1-19 with the little asterisk next to the 19, so that's an indicator that they have forfeited games before. And then in the game history, you can also go on their schedule, and if you see a ton of 50-0 losses on their team page, it's probably a good indicator that a walkover is probably coming for your team. As for minutes breakdowns in the forfeits, so for the forfeits, regardless of what's showing in the gameplay, the minute distribution that's shown after the game is always going to be the one that you want to look at. And the way that it's broken up is there's 3 different slots when you're setting a lineup. There's the starter slot, the backup slot, and the reserve slot. And in these are kind of the minute breakdowns for the different slots where you have players placed for the forfeit win. So all the starters will receive 36 minutes. All the players put in the backup slots will receive 10 minutes. And then anyone placed in their reserve slot will receive 2 minutes. And then reminder that you can put players in multiple slots and add up those minutes to increase their total as needed. And then emphasizing once again that minutes accumulated in the simulation of the game, as well as foul outs, are not accurate. And then this is just a breakdown, more like a visual breakdown, so you can kind of see what it looks like. But essentially, this is what it would look like for players playing in a forfeit game, where you can see the 36 minutes for the starters, 10 for the backups, and 2 for the reserves. But it's like a nice little like children's edition game where you can add them together to create, ideal minutes for the players that you're needing to. And then this is the example for my game. So in my game, you can see all 5 of the starters I had just in the starter slot, so not at backups or reserves. So all 5 of them received 36 minutes. And then Meni Sahar, my backup point guard and shooting guard, he's a player that's one of my better players, so I wanted to try to keep his minutes a little bit lower so that he can play more minutes in the second league game of the week. But since he's set up at backup point guard, which is 10 minutes, and backup shooting guard, which is 10 minutes, then his total minutes for the week so far is 20. And then you'll see Jarko and Julian Conesa. Those are my, ideal bigs that I wanted to keep in better game shape. So I set Jarko, the power forward, as just a backup power forward, so he received 10 minutes. And then Conesa is the funny one, where since going back to the previous slide, you can see the reserves for each spot adds up to 10 minutes because it's 2 minutes across 5 spots. I only set him up as the reserve for every position, which, funny enough, got him to 10 minutes exactly for the next game. And then for Bruce Dow, that is my main trainee, but he is set as just backup small forward, so he also received 10 minutes only. So this should give you a good indicator of, just the ways that you can adjust the lineups to create minutes that you think are more ideal. Forfeits are a lot easier to manage when they're the second game of the week, where you kind of have an idea of what player minutes are looking like entering the game. My league game, unfortunately, was the walkover was the first game in the week, so it's a little bit harder to figure out what you want to do and what to predict. But if it's the second league game of the week, it's a lot easier to scope out the minutes and figure out what you want to do. And then just a reminder that slots left blank will not be calculated. So in this example, you can see that the point guard spot for starters is blank and the backup shooting guard spot is blank. There's not a real reason to ever have this set up. But looking at just this for explanation's sake, the starting point guard minutes, so those 36 minutes, would just be applied to no one. So they wouldn't be added on to someone else's minutes. They would just essentially not be given in a walkover win. And then same thing for the 10 minutes at the backup shooting guard spot. So while 240 minutes will be filled for all of their buzzer beater games, in forfeits, the slots that are left blank will just not be calculated. And then the good thing is, I know we get a lot of questions about, how do forfeits impact training? The nice thing is you can still get your full 48 minutes as needed for training slots, so a walkover win shouldn't impact training in a negative fashion. And then fun buzzer beater fact of the day. So this is one that's come up very, very rarely. It almost never happens nowadays, but in the event of an ultra rare double forfeit, the home team is awarded the victory and would advance in that playoff game or cup game if it's like a tournament style match. So that's really all I had for today. I think the forfeits are something that's kind of interesting to look at and not super common in buzzer beater, but also not unheard of. So hopefully that gives you a good indication of what you're looking at for any forfeits moving forward. And if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments and let me know. Thanks. Bye.